Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and it is always a great pleasure to be alongside the full team, and that is Joe Stanley, Jacqui Felgate, Dr Nick Carr. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you, Darcy.
It's always awesome to be here. And as they say, there are two kinds of families. There's your biological family, and then you have your chosen family, which is about your closest friends and the people you work with, like you guys.
Oh, thank you, Joe. This week is also National Families Week, which is all about building connections between family and friends.
And as you know, Jack, families come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And in fact, one-parent families are on the rise here in Australia, with over 1 million counted in the last census.
I'm going to change gear here, Nick, because I want to talk about dad jokes, which is a long-standing tradition in a lot of families, and mine. I get a feeling you'd be a world champion at the dad joke.
Well, I reckon I might have a master's degree in that one. So I've got one for you.
Oh, yes.
Why did the skeleton not go to the ball?
Tell us.
Because he had nobody to go with.
You see, I laugh, even though I don't want to. You know, we all groan, right, at dad jokes. But actually, a study out of Britain has found that the dad joke can be really positive. They've found that it has a really positive impact on kids.
Yeah, so on a more serious note, the British Psychological Society says, they now say that dad jokes can tell you a lot about the mindset of the father and the relationship with the kids. Plus, a good dad joke helps kids learn the difference between a good and a bad joke.
We are very good at dad jokes, as we said, but it's also important, I guess, too, for adolescents and teaching them that it's okay to be not cool, that it's not the end of the world if you're a bit of a dag.
And what would Christmas Day be without them as well, Jack? You think of those Christmas crackers and you take out the cheesy joke in the middle of the cracker and you read it out on Christmas Day. No doubt in my mind, they're written by dads, those jokes. For sure.
They're pretty bad. Yeah, or perhaps now it's AI. You know, talking about Christmas, though, of course, key to any family gathering is eating. But you got to say, getting kids to enjoy veggies is no laughing matter.
My trick for that is actually the old sausage roll. You can cram whatever you like in those, wrap them up in a bit of pastry, and my kids love them.
Actually, that's not a bad trick, Jack. I like that one. But it's actually a little bit sad because only around about 6% of Aussie kids 2 to the age of 70 get their proper serves of vegetables, and we should all be getting at least 5 serves a day.
And Nick, we know we often serve our vegetables hot traditionally, but the latest research is saying if you want your kids to eat more vegetables, parents, you seriously need to chill out.
1 serve of vegetables is 1 cup of leafy salad greens and raw vegetables, half a cup of cooked veggies, half a cup of lentils, legumes, peas, half a cup of sweet corn or cooked potato and a medium tomato. So for the little toddlers, it's around 2 to 3 serves, and then ranging up to about 5 serves for children aged 9 years. Food and eating is so emotional, and we want our children to be well nourished and healthy. And I guess if children are reluctant to eat a variety of foods or new foods, and we're using some tactics such as bribery and coercion, children can feel fear and anxiety. And with fear and anxiety, they lose their appetite, they can become disinterested in trying new foods, and the mealtime battle can escalate quite quickly. We can start by making children feel safe and secure with a wide variety of foods and, in particular, vegetables away from the table. So things like visiting markets or grocery stores with our children so they can be exposed to the colour, the variety. You can also encourage them with a little bit of a shopping list or ask them to pick out a food that they might be interested in trying. Even simple meal prep tasks can really engage kids and boost their interest in trying new foods. So washing the carrots, even if they're old enough, they can peel them. There's a huge variety of child-friendly knives. So engaging them into chopping some cucumbers or some fruit or capsicum that don't require a huge amount of effort, you can sort of slowly observe them inspecting that vegetable a little bit more, licking it, smelling it, taking a few bites, and eventually just feeling safe to eat it. Deconstructed mealtimes and tasting plates for young children and busy families are a great way to incorporate variety, but also consider your child's preferences. So for a child coming up to the table, immediately if they see a food or two that they know that they love, they enjoy, can take away that anxiety. Kids and vegetables is such a learning curve, and for 1 week, broccoli is going to be their favourite food, and then they may not touch it again for months. And so I think just trying to mix up the variety that you serve, the way that you serve it, but certainly it's playing the long game and really building those bonds of connection and trust.
So the best way to get your kids eating veggies is to make it fun, let them play with it and explore with them.
I want to know, though, how you actually get them to clean up the mess after cooking. Have we got any tips on that?
Well, play is the thing, Jack, because that's how kids learn best. So it's really important to let them explore and try out new things, which includes, parents, I hope you're listening, letting them take supervised risks out in the real world.
Well, playgrounds have certainly changed from our upbringing, those rusty metal slides and timber swings. And,
We used to love them, though, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of safety back in the day. But one Aussie entrepreneur is bringing 21st century style play to kids right around the world.
I think we often completely underestimate the power of play for children, particularly in terms of well-being. What children do in play is they learn to regulate their emotions, and they learn the social skills and other things that keep them calm. They learn how to share, and they get a lot of strokes from their friends in that process.
Marcus Veerman was always a big kid at heart, but it was an opportunity overseas that saw playgrounds become his passion.
My wife had a volunteer position in Thailand, and I left a great job over here to follow her, and really just started saying yes to different projects that I saw, and the one that stuck was play. So we were based in Thailand on the Thai-Myanmar border, and there are millions of refugees across that border, and basically we built one playground, and the word just spread from there to the point where we were building a new custom playground every 2 weeks along that border, and we ended up building for about 40 schools. And we basically made a commitment to build a playground using only the local people and the local tools and materials that we could find in that region.
But that was just the start. Marcus had a much bigger vision. What better way to reach as many communities as possible than online?
What Playground Ideas is all about is getting communities anywhere to create play for children. So we offer all the manuals and tools for anyone anywhere to get local tools, materials and resources together to create a great stimulating play space.
With over 150 free, step-by-step, language-free designs, there's a playground to suit all kinds of kids in all kinds of places.
So over the last decade, we estimate that we've had about 4,500 communities in 143 countries use our resources, and we estimate that that's impacted about 2 to 2.5 million children.
They are very happy, they are playing safely.
So we took the global safety standards, and then we boiled that down into a manual in a cartoon form with almost no language, so you can just absorb, you know, how big does a head hole need to be so that you don't get a strangulation hazard or a pinching hazard on a finger and those kinds of things, so that people can use these local materials but actually get it right to the standards, because a lot of those countries, they don't have any safety standards at all. This is a game changer for communities. Most communities that we build in, they don't have any playgrounds at all. So it becomes a central focus for the community, which I think is something that's really makes a difference.
And with a commitment to use whatever resources are available, no two playgrounds are the same.
You know, we've built cubby houses out of concrete water tank rings that you can kind of build up and cap off and then cut windows and holes in. Obviously local timber, local chain and steel, but also, I mean, we would have used hundreds of thousands of tyres, recycled all, and you can get them in basically any country for almost nothing or nothing. Just behind me, the Carr tyre sphere was something we developed really early, which is just a favourite because it's super fun. I love the way it moves, but it's also, it can cost almost nothing. You know, you get about 25 bolts and it's done. Another favourite is our 4-way seesaw, which is 4 seesaws put together. And I just love the dynamics of when kids run around it. It has this kind of cause and effect motion of when the kids are skipping around, how they all affect each other. But it turns a seesaw, which would normally be a sort of a 2-person activity, into an activity where you can have lots of group rules begin and other things. It's really exciting. I mean, that play drive precedes us as humans. Those same very, very deep drives are within all children. You see them posting small objects into a hole or stacking things. All of those things are similar because it's all about children understanding about the way the world works. And so I think we've carried that through as we've migrated and evolved around the world.
I think all of us have heard of the term helicopter parent, where it may be a little bit overprotective as a mother or father.
Yes, and then you've got the tiger parents, which is where you're pushing your kids to succeed no matter the cost. Or there's the free-range parent, where you just let your kids run wild.
Or the snowplow parents, called that because they tend to move obstacles out of the way to make life easier for the kids. Could have been guilty at times.
I feel like I'm a little bit of all of those things, but my kids are constantly pushing me to let them do things, and I struggle to let it go and to let them do those semi-dangerous things that you worry about.
So you think you're a helicopter slightly, maybe snowplow?
My kids do dangerous sports. That's what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I'm a that'll do parent. Just that'll do. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to find that balance any way you to try and think about it. But up next, changing gear, we're going to talk about the Aussie towns experiencing serious tooth decay. Up next on the House of Wellness.
Well, Dr. Nick, your country of birth, of course, England is known for many things. You've got Wimbledon and their strawberries and cream, the red phone boxes and, of course, the black caps. But they're also known for something else.
Yes, not such great teeth.
Which is, bad teeth, right?
And Austin Powers, with his horrible, ugly yellow teeth, has a lot to answer for. Though I actually loved those movies.
Did you?
I did, yes. But thankfully now that stereotype is no longer so true.
Well, until the 1990s, British people actually had teeth that were in worse condition than those in the US, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, and that's all changed now because Britain now surpasses the US in terms of oral health. And it's all due to better diet, less sugar, better dental care and fluoride in toothpaste.
Well, speaking of fluoride and toothpaste, a new study has shown that in Australia, when it comes to our teeth, not all rural towns are created equal.
At just 7 years old, Hayley Sly has her daily dental routine down to a science.
So I set a 2-minute timer on my watch and I brush lots of different ways. I don't spit. That's what the dentist said. Don't rinse out, but just spit, because it's good to leave some toothpaste on your teeth.
She has a go at brushing first, then I'll have a go at brushing for her, and then she has another go at brushing as well. So we've still got the adults helping, which is really good.
Hayley and her mum Bronwyn thought they were ticking all the boxes. So when Hayley began experiencing not just 1 but 3 nasty toothaches, it came as a very unwelcome surprise.
Come on in.
It wasn't really the nicest thing to have because it was constantly hurting when I bit.
Keep you nice and clean.
Yeah. We were able to get an emergency dental appointment, and that's when he let us know that she does in fact need fillings and she has holes in her teeth.
Hayley's an interesting sort of a case. She was doing most things right. Her teeth were pretty clean, and I got the impression that the diet was basically pretty good too. She was one of those kiddies who just did not deserve to get tooth decay. And the thought crossed my mind, gee, if she'd been living down in Melbourne, she just wouldn't have the decay that she did.
Hayley and Bronwyn live in Mansfield, a small town in the foothills of the Victorian Alps that doesn't have access to fluoridated water.
We've known for a long time that fluoride hardens up teeth, and it works topically. The teeth get wet with fluoride water, they absorb the mineral, and that means the enamel is just a lot stronger, much more resistant to the acid attack that occurs when plaque builds up. Brushing on the outside is actually pretty easy at the front, gets a bit harder at the back.
Dentist Mark Knapp moved to Mansfield from Melbourne 7 years ago. Since relocating, he's been treating decay in baby teeth twice as often as he did in the city.
It's fun interacting with kids, it's fun treating them, but it's not fun having to give injections, it's not fun having to drill. The worst thing that we have to do is take out teeth. Sometimes there's simply no alternative. If we don't take out teeth, there's going to be ongoing pain. It's upsetting for the patient, it's upsetting for the family, and it's certainly no pleasure for the dentist. It's in fact quite traumatic for the dentist.
Unfortunately, this experience isn't exclusive to one town. A recent study conducted by La Trobe University's Dr. Virginia Dixon Swift shows that thousands of Victorian children are suffering the same dental disadvantages.
I wanted to explore which towns had water fluoridation and which towns didn't. So I began by looking at towns over 1,000 population. And the reason I did that was because the National Oral Health Plan says that towns over 1,000 population, they recommend have water fluoridation. So I explored the census data and looked at the water fluoridation status. The key findings were that we have still about 33% of towns in rural Victoria that are over 1,000 population don't have access to water fluoridation.
Over 50% of children in these towns have above state average rates of decayed, missing and filled teeth. Even more alarming, the rate of dental hospitalisations for these kids is nearly 3 times Victoria's average.
I visited some of the rural towns and I found out about the fact that on a Wednesday there's a general anaesthetic list at the public hospital, and that list comprises mostly of children, young children, who are having their teeth extracted for dental caries, so dental decay, something that's totally preventable, and I found that quite shocking.
I feel like it's not fair because then I have to put up with having sore teeth until we can go to the dentist and get them filled up.
I had heard about fluoride not being in our water, but I wasn't aware of the extent of the effects it had on children's teeth especially, but on everyone's teeth. No one wants to see their children hurt or in pain, so it was frustrating as well. It's not something that we want to happen to anyone, really. A lot of people don't know about this. They don't know that fluoride isn't included in our water, and they don't know what to do to counteract that issue.
There are things that families can do to go that extra mile to protect the teeth. There are supplements. There are extra strong, call them industrial strength toothpastes. So families can take these extra steps to look after the teeth, to harden up the enamel, but they just really shouldn't have to.
The decision as to which towns are going to be fluoridated and which towns are not are one that's made by the state government, and towns don't get to, say we would like water fluoridation. They could say that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get it because the funding is not readily available. Metropolitan areas predominantly have water fluoridation. Many rural towns don't, and that creates a real inequity between those that live in the city and those that live in the bush. The best outcome we could have is that rural towns do have water fluoridation and that the plants are installed in a timely manner. And I think if we could get 5 towns fluoridated in the next 5 years, that would be a wonderful outcome, but it comes down to funding and political will.
I find that really interesting, Joe. I always grew up believing that fluoride had been added to water all around Australia.
Well, it was first added to water supplies in 1953, and Beaconsfield in Tasmania was the first town to have fluoridated water.
How have you gone, can I ask, teaching Willow as a kid to brush her teeth? Has that been a challenge?
Well, I remember it being really hard because she would never do it for longer than like 10 seconds, right? So we would get a song and we would play the song. She loved Katy Perry, so we'd have the while we would like cleaning our teeth, right? But that was actually easier than a teenager because she doesn't want to spend time with me cleaning her teeth now.
Yeah. So I've got a feeling that my teenage boys think brushing your teeth is optional, then they can do it occasionally, which is concerning. Up next, Reroad Test, the online program that's helping parents partner up with their kids. Talking a lot about parenting today on the House of Wellness, and the one thing that highlights the generation gap in my house more than anything else, I have to say, is social media.
You're a big fan.
I know what you're talking about, Darcy. I sometimes feel like I need Google Translate for the text messages. I have no idea what those abbreviations and acronyms are all about.
Yeah, want to try having a 14-year-old. You know what it's like. The eye rolls that I get from my 14-year-old because I don't know what the latest TikTok trend is, or, oh, my gosh, I'm using emojis, which is apparently just cringe now. Yeah.
I am in that zone too with my older child, but a 2023 report actually found that 37% of kids aged under 12 now have their own phone. And get this, kids between 5 and 7, well, 1 in 10 already have a phone as well.
Yeah, and that's up from 20% on that stat in 2018, Jack, which is a dramatic rise. And I think this is the complex parenting conversation we're all having at the moment with no really standard answer to it.
My daughter is about to turn 11 and she desperately wants a phone. But the positive thing, I think, is knowing where your kids are and giving you a little bit of peace of mind in that way.
And interestingly, Jack, the Australian e-safety guidelines, they don't actually set an age where kids should have phones. It's all about their level of maturity and I also guess parents' budget.
Very true.
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to parenting. Don't you think that's part of the challenge with it, right?
Yeah.
But the great thing is there are some awesome programs and resources out there that really encourage parents to partner with their kids and find a solution that's right for them, especially when the going gets tough.
When you went to the divorce, I felt like things that you could help me with.
Libby Brackie had the ideal life until, without warning, her world fell apart.
I had a marriage breakdown and 3 young children. My eldest was 10, Will was 7, and Elise was 3 at the time. And a very sudden marriage breakdown to the point where, you know, not only myself as an adult was struggling to cope with the reality of it, I was noticing the kids were almost in a state of shock of what had just happened and why in particular, and really how to navigate their way through these new relationships because their father at the time had recoupled with another person and they didn't know this person, so it was complicated.
In my world at the time, I was, to be completely honest, overwhelmed. I didn't know what was going on. You know, my parents had just got divorced. I was switching between houses, between my mum's house, my dad's house. You know, I was all over the joint.
With no skills to deal with his emotions, school became a struggle.
I was worried probably more about Will, worried about all of them, but Will being the only boy and middle child at that time and 7, which I know was a really critical age in a boy's life, that they start to really, you know, hang out with their dad and connect with their dad, that he was no longer there. So that's why I wanted to bridge that gap.
So the Partners in Parenting program is an online program for parents who would like to get strategies to support their parenting of young people to reduce their child's risk of depression or anxiety problems.
Psychologist Marie Yap developed the Partners in Parenting program. Over the last 10 years, she's helped navigate over 600 kids and their parents through rough times.
We provide a personalised feedback report for parents, which highlights areas where they're doing really well and provides additional tips and strategies for how they could do better in other areas to further reduce their child's risk of developing depression and anxiety.
Marie has translated decades of research into user-friendly parenting guidelines, practical resources that parents can use straight away.
I've never been through a situation like this. I haven't had kids before, clearly. I was learning, so I felt it really helpful from parenting guidance and advice, really, about if you notice this, try this. If you want to have a conversation, try these conversation prompts. If you notice anxiety or if you notice times of sadness, you know, perhaps approach it this way. It was almost like a self-paced course that you could go through and understand and get tips and ideas from experts. For Will, it's been more of a learning together.
So how are you feeling about going away?
Nervous, absolutely nervous, but otherwise I'm feeling pretty okay.
There was a time Tanya Alford wondered if her son Luke would ever get through high school. He was badly bullied and stripped of all his confidence.
Is there an orientation? That was heartbreaking, because to see your child go from this really outgoing person to within such a short amount of time to not wanting to leave the house, not wanting to talk to people, suicidal thoughts, it was really confronting.
I was quite an extroverted kid, which then turned quite introverted after a really terrible time when I started high school, where I was low all the time. I had no motivation to get out of bed. I wanted to skip school. I didn't enjoy being comfortable with me, my own skin, to a point where I almost took my own life because of it. And I think if it wasn't for this, I don't know if I would even be here.
Some of the key things that parents could look for if they're concerned about whether their child might be developing mental health problems, would be significant changes in their child's behaviour and their mood. Especially for teenagers, for example, they're going through puberty, and that does impact on their mood. So we're looking at changes that are kind of carrying on and going on for weeks continuously, and it's starting to show that impacts on the child's functioning. So, if they start to withdraw from friends, that they would usually love to hang out with, if they start to, not want to go to school, for example, or they're struggling to concentrate at school, some of those kind of what we call functioning difficulties are clear signs that something might be going wrong.
Desperate for some kind of direction, Tanya found Marie's program, which armed her with the techniques to best manage a difficult time.
It brought attention to some things, some mental health issues that were red flagged. So they were able to identify things that were going on with Luke, with his answers, that I wasn't able to identify, because for me, in my world, this is the world we live in. This was Luke. So I didn't see anything out of the ordinary for him, but it was out of the ordinary.
Having all these problems buried deep inside of me and not wanting to tell people and not wanting to bother people with just stuff that was going on, and just feeling really alone and isolated. And then my parents, knowing at least a bit where I was coming from, it really just took a burden off me.
What the Partners in Parenting program encourages parents to do, for example, is to hold back from jumping in and solve the problem for their child, but instead to encourage the child or to guide the child to work out the potential solutions to problems they're facing, so that it empowers the child to realize that actually I can work through this. My parents here to support me. I know that, if I make a mistake, they're there. They're going to encourage me and keep me going, but I'm the one who's going to solve this and work through this difficulty. So that's kind of the optimal way for young people to develop those skills, because they'll need them later in life.
I'm now comfortable being me. I can talk to people. I'm extroverted. I'm back to loving my own ways. I no longer feel really dug down.
The program definitely gave me the skills, ideas and advice around how to have the conversations, when, why even, and what outcomes or what behaviours to look for in particular that may present as a red flag or present as we're heading in the right direction.
I think that learning how to deal with problems entirely is a skill I'll never forget or rely on my entire life.
Well, that is a fantastic program, and it is free and available right round Australia. One thing that has kept our kids healthy from a mental and physical point of view has to have been sport. Jack, it turns out for over 65, slow and steady is the way to go.
It's good news for golf lovers, Das, because new research suggests that it's even better for heart health in older people than walking.
Yeah, so whether it's walking, hiking or golf, they're all just gentle exercises which are great for the over 65s. And golf particularly because it uses loads of different muscles, but you have to leave the golf cart at home.
Well, we all want to stay healthy inside and out. And after the break, Jack, we look at... It's a moment that many mothers dread. It's that moment when our daughters want to wear makeup for the very first time, and often it's ours.
It's always ours. That's the problem. So lock up your lipstick, Joe. JK is along to take us through the teen makeup minefield.
The goal of every parent is to give their child the best and the healthiest diet possible, especially with the winter months fast approaching. Food is always number one when it comes to supporting kids' immune health. But whether you're hiding vegetables in pasta sauce or you're withholding dessert, sometimes getting fussy kids to eat a balanced diet can be really tough. And if they require additional nutritional support, supplements may be another way to assist their immune system. While supplements may be helpful for both kids and adults, the fact is they may have different preferences when it comes to taking them. And that's where gummies come in, as they're an easy way for kids to enjoy taking vitamins. So when choosing a gummy product, it's important you look for one that doesn't contain artificial colours, sweeteners or flavours. It should be comprehensively formulated to the child's needs and feature ingredients that will assist these needs. For example, to support your child's immune system, elderberry is a widely used ingredient for colds and immune health during winter. We all know parenting is hard enough. A gummy supplement when needed, as well as a healthy lifestyle, means that you can focus on watching them grow up healthy and happy.
Jo, as mums of girls, I think something I always worry about and focus on is their self-esteem and also how they deal with beauty issues.
Oh, you're so right, Jack. It's so important to teach our girls how to be, you know, happy with themselves and really love the skin that they're in. But I'll tell you what, when they're going into their teen years, and my daughter is 14, so I'm right in the heart of it, it is all about beauty, fashion and makeup. And I have to say, when I was her age, I didn't have YouTube, I didn't have Instagram, so I didn't compare myself constantly to other girls. All I had was Dolly, and I was pretty happy with how I looked next to Dolly magazine.
I caught my 6-year-old the other day doing makeup tutorials on her iPad. She's just 6, but I think as a child of the 80s, mine were pretty rough. I think blue eyeshadow and, you know...
Oh, and the line?
Yeah.
I didn't know to blend. And there was no contouring. My daughter comes out looking like a Kardashian. I'm like, how do you do this? But you know what's really great is there are some fantastic initiatives that are set up to help guide our young girls through. You've got the Butterfly Foundation, you've got the Dove Self-Esteem Project, Lip Timber, of course, all fantastic organisations that are there to help our girls because while it's not the be-all and end-all, fashion and beauty is fun, right? Makeup is fun, and I see it on my daughter. It's a beautiful expression of creativity and individuality.
Exactly, and who better to guide us through this than our own beauty guru, and she's a mum of 2 girls, Jade K.
My personal experience as a teenager with makeup was maybe not my finest years. There was a lot of black eyeliner involved, a lot of mascara, and a pale, nearly foundation colour of lipstick. That is all I'm saying. Approaching makeup on teens rather than adults, my specific approach would be using more creams. They're more gentle on the skin. Also, I don't want to put anything on their skin that's going to aggravate it. You're a lot more sensitive, you're going through puberty, you may have acne, so be really careful that the makeup you're using is a little bit more natural. So I'm going to start with concealer because a lot of the times I think we have to use foundation over our whole face, and even if I'm doing red carpet for a celebrity, often we don't actually even use foundation. Mums and dads don't think it's this thick concealer that we see a lot of the time on the Kardashians, on, you know, TV and on social media. A good creamy concealer just to apply to any areas where you may have a little bit of a pink blemish, a pimple, an acne. It can be just to create a nice flawless finish. I am a brushes girl, but I know America, TikTok, everyone uses sponges. So use whatever you like, but just be mindful that these ages of teenage years, you don't want to put any more bacteria on an area that can kind of get a little bit more red or have more blemishes or any pimples. So that's my little bit of advice with application. And if you've prepped your skin really well, you'll see, like with a good moisturiser, SPF, it'll just go on and just really lay on top like beautifully, not kind of get cluggy and cakey. When you apply a base like this with concealer, teachers don't know, are you wearing makeup, are you not? But if you're wearing a full base and a full foundation look overall, you're pretty much heading for detention. The next step would be a cream blush to lip tint. So I really love this at every age. I think it just really wakes you up again. It just is really fresh and brings texture back into the skin that you lose when you maybe apply a little bit of concealer or foundation or tinted moisturiser. So I just like to use my fingers and apply it like this, back into the hairline.
How do you know which colour blushes to use?
I steer away sometimes from pink if I've got kind of redness. So you know how you had a little bit of redness around the nose that we often get in our teenage years? Yeah. I like to go for like more of a corally colour. It's really youthful and fresh, but suits most skin tones. One thing I love about blush is that you can use it both on the lips and the cheeks, so it works as a dual product. So for parents, You know, it's less money that they have to spend. Maybe mum might use it herself. Don't tell her I told you that. So the final step is mascara, and mascara is probably my teenage years, what I remember. I even got one of the mascaras that I used. Best way to apply mascara, and my girls already know, and they're 8 and 9, is basically blink into the mascara, okay? A waterproof mascara is great because you're not going to have panda eyes and you may not get in trouble if you're wearing it to school. And what you'll find is it just really extends those lashes. Already, look at that.
What I would definitely tell teens is just to have fun with makeup. Makeup is something, you know, you can use to express yourself, but even a little bit of makeup goes such a long way. And even experimenting with colours and something that suits your skin is so much fun to do, especially in a long course of time. Finding products that suit you and not like sort of rushing into it, whatever's popular, but using whatever suits your skin and whatever you're comfortable with.
Not a lot is said about how a lot of parents shame teenagers and adolescents about makeup. And I think that we shouldn't shame our daughters, sons, if they're playing with makeup, but I think we should make it a safe and fun environment. And parents, join in.
There's a new frontier of healthcare underway, and it's happening deep in our cells. That's where we find the powerhouse known as the mitochondria.
The best analogy for the mitochondria is a car. Now, it doesn't matter what sort of flash car you have, if you don't have any energy in the car doesn't move. And it's the same thing with the cells. So every cell in the body has this mitochondria, which is this little fuel pack or battery that drives the cell. So you need a good functioning mitochondria to have energy for your body to function well.
And much like the engine of a car, our cells need a spark plug. Enter ubiquinol, a fat-soluble antioxidant found naturally in every cell.
Ubiquinol is one of the major drivers of the mitochondria. So the mitochondria produces this thing called ATP, which is the unit of energy. When you breathe oxygen that combines with the fuel, glucose, and all the other nutrients we have. And that goes through this cycle called the respiratory chain. And this respiratory chain that goes on in the mitochondria creates the ATP. Now, ubiquinol is one of the vital keys to move this chain. So you're moving all the chemicals along to make ATP. You need ubiquinol for that.
Ubiquinol has a role in supporting heart health, male fertility, and healthy cholesterol. But like many processes in the body, ubiquinol isn't spared from the effects of ageing.
When you get to about 30, which is the peak of your life, those levels of ubiquinol, the active CoQ10, drop off when you get especially over the age of 50. But there are other reasons for it as well. You have to have around 3 kilos a day of broccoli to get 100 milligrams of ubiquinol, or 1.5 kilos of steak a day to get 100 milligrams of ubiquinol. If you're concerned about how much ubiquinol you're getting, you really should be speaking to the health professional you trust, your doctor, your naturopath, and they can give you the best sources of ubiquinol.
Jack, a big theme for us today on the House of Wellness is all about parenting. And I have to say, 3 teenage boys that I have in my house, leaving Sienna aside, they can be disgusting, Jack. Seriously, they got to learn how to flush the toilet.
Yeah, gross.
Just some personal hygiene would be appreciated at various times. They are a nightmare.
Well, you mentioned Sienna. I'm sure she's perfect. But my daughters, they can be a bit grubby as well. I want them to learn how to open a window. But did you know you can actually leave a bowl of vinegar out overnight and all the smells go away?
Well, we need some vinegar, that's for sure,
Need litres of it.
in a number of different rooms. I haven't heard that before. One of the smells that tops the list is garlic, but not when it's been cooked in the fry pan, no, Jack. But garlic at times turns people off as well.
Well, vegetables, we've been talking about them on the show. They've been having a bit of a rebrand, but also how to get your kids to eat them. And garlic is very much like that. You know, it's very healthy, it's very good for you, and it also tastes great. So here's Zoe and Hines to tell us all about the wonderful world of garlic.
The vampires out there will definitely disagree with me, Zoe, but when it comes to foods I think of in wintertime, garlic is my go-to.
And it's quite the hit of flavour, Lukey, and that's why it's the inspo for both our recipes today. I'm doing an aioli with roasted carrots.
Health on a plate right there, Zoe, and I bet you didn't think you could put garlic in a smoothie, but you're seeing it here first as I'm making my immune crusher.
While you do that, let me give you some other immune supporters to look out for. I'm talking about the nutrients vitamin C, selenium and zinc.
They're all antioxidants, which means they reduce free radicals from forming in the body. Another big ticket nutrient in this space is vitamin D.
Ah, the sunshine vitamin, because we mainly get it when our skin is exposed to sunlight.
Exactly. It also helps to support the immune system to fight illness.
Eating a whole food balanced diet will give you all these nutrients, but you can also find them in supplement form.
Zoe, it's an emergency.
Oh, no.
I need my smoothie immediately.
Oh, no, he's sick.
Get Nourished is brought to you by Bioceuticals Armour Force Daily Protect, with Wellmune for daily year-round immune system support. Found exclusively behind the counter. Speak to your pharmacist for specially formulated relief.
We have been talking a lot about family today on the House of Wellness. I remember as a kid when the circus would come to town, it was a really popular thing.
I used to love it, Darcy. The lions and tigers and so on, so exciting. But there was also something a bit sad about it even back then.
Well, yeah, I think that is shifting now. We all fully understand animal cruelty so much better, although there are still circuses with wild and exotic animals, even in Australia.
Around 40 countries have banned the use of exotic animals in circuses, and some have even banned the use of domestic animals like horses and dogs.
Yeah, not in Australia though, Jack. Some local councils have bans, but there are no federal or state laws that prevent the use of exotic and wild animals.
Well, now a circus in Germany has come up with an ethical and I think magical solution using technology. They have brought animals back virtually.
So Circus Roncalli was one of the first circuses in the 90s to ban the use of exotic animals, and now their animals are holograms and it's a spectacular light show.
And here's a fun fact for you, Jack. The circus is named after Pope John XXIII, whose civil name was Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli.
Say that better than me.
Beautifully said, Nick. That's all we've got time for today. And make sure you remember your special person on Mother's Day.
Yes, better yet, why don't you lace up your runners and register for one of the amazing fun runs that are held around the country.
It also includes the Mother's Day Classic, which supports the 1 in 7 women who are diagnosed with breast cancer.
A great excuse to get dressed up in pink, my favourite colour. And if you can't actually take part and run yourself, back someone else who is.
Absolutely, I will be supporting it, and as well as appearing with Gerald Quigley on House of Wellness Radio.
Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. See you next time.